Today is Wednesday, August 20th. We'll tell you what kind of support President Trump is now considering for Ukraine and why the Trump administration decided to take away more officials' security clearances. Also, new COVID vaccine guidelines that put America's top pediatricians at odds with the nation's health secretary. Plus, a big milestone for a viral toy, a mega merger involving hundreds of local TV stations, and what's behind the latest workplace trend called job hugging. Those stories and even more news coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Dozens of national security officials saw their security clearances taken away this week, in what's just the latest example of President Trump moving against people within the government who he sees as opponents. Trump has revoked clearances before, including from former President Biden. But the New York Times reports this week's actions cut deeper, far into the national security establishment. The Trump administration says all the current and former officials who had their clearances pulled either politicized or weaponized intelligence or failed to safeguard classified information. Several were involved in the investigation of Russia's influence in the 2016 election. Some also signed onto a statement in support of the House's first impeachment inquiry into President Trump, and one signed an open letter asking for Trump to disclose his business interests during the 2016 campaign. Now they'll have to give up their credentials, and they'll lose access to any kind of classified information or facilities. This is going to make it hard, if not impossible, for a lot of these people to keep doing their jobs. Critics say the strategy of revoking clearances could make people in the national security world afraid to speak up when their assessments are supposed to include a mix of different perspectives, even ones that might not be favorable to the president. In response to the news, one congressional Democrat already introduced a bill to create new standards for security clearances and prevent the system from being abused. But at this moment, it's not clear if it will have a chance at becoming law. American and European military planners have started talking about what to do with Ukraine after Russia's invasion is over. Specifically, what kind of security guarantees they'll be able to offer. Reuters cites sources who say the Pentagon is now carrying out planning exercises on the kind of support the U.S. could offer. Exactly what that will be is not set in stone yet. One potential option is apparently to send European forces to Ukraine, but put the U.S. in charge of their command and control. President Trump again publicly ruled out sending American troops to Ukraine, but in an interview on Fox News yesterday, he did suggest the U.S. could offer Ukraine some air support. For example, more air defense systems or a no-fly zone enforced by U.S. fighter jets. Ukrainian officials say only a binding security agreement could actually deter Russia from invading Ukraine again. But Russia has ruled out the idea of an international force being sent to Ukraine, which is partly why a peace deal still seems pretty far off. As for what comes next, both Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin have said they're willing to meet face-to-face. And President Trump says after they do, he'll join in the discussion again, too. So far, no actual date or location has been agreed upon, though. But NATO military chiefs have a virtual meeting scheduled for today to talk about Ukraine. 6 Republican-led states have now decided to send National Guard troops to the nation's capital. That brings the total number of troops to nearly 2,000, all dealing with what the Trump administration says is a crime emergency in Washington, D.C. Already, the White House says the crackdown has been a success, resulting in hundreds of arrests, including 200 people in the country illegally. So far, Army officials have stationed troops largely around tourist spots, not high-crime areas, so many critics are questioning the Trump administration's motives. They also say the whole operation is too aggressive, overstepping on what the city should be able to handle, especially since violent crime is already going down. Well, now the top federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C. has opened an investigation into whether the crime data can be trusted. To become an American citizen, immigrants may now have to do more to prove they have good moral character. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS, just put out a memo. It says officers should do more to consider the positive attributes of immigrants who want to become citizens, not just whether they've been staying out of trouble. For example, do they adhere to societal norms, and do they contribute to society? So officers will consider factors like long-term community involvement, educational achievement, family caregiving, and ties in the U.S. Plus, it calls for officers to more heavily scrutinize behaviors that would disqualify someone, like gambling and drug use. To be clear, this is for legal pathways to citizenship, like naturalization. The USCIS says it's also adding new guidance for how officers should consider immigration benefits requests. For example, social media vetting, including searches of any activity considered anti-American. But critics say the criteria is too subjective. Of course, this is just the latest effort to crack down on both legal and illegal immigration. The American Academy of Pediatrics put out new recommendations for childhood vaccines. And for the first time in 30 years, there are differences from what federal health officials are recommending, specifically for COVID-19 shots. The AAP says children from 6 months to 2 years old should receive a COVID vaccine. It also recommended older kids get a COVID vaccine if they've never gotten one before, if they're at high risk of getting a severe case, or if they live with someone who's at high risk. But it comes after Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced the CDC would not recommend the COVID vaccine for any healthy children. The health department has also responded to the new advice, accusing the AAP of launching a political attack instead of working in the best interests of American children. But the AAP says it's actually the one looking out for kids. Stay tuned. All right, we have more news for you still coming up. But first, a break to thank our sponsor, OneSkin. For me, self-care is not just about routine, it's also about feeling confident in my own skin. And that's exactly why I love using OneSkin. I started with their face and eye formulas, and they've quickly become part of my everyday. They're light and hydrating, and my skin feels and looks healthier. It feels good to know that while I'm taking care of myself on the outside, the products from OneSkin are also working on the cellular level to keep my skin resilient long-term. And more recently, I've added their OS1 Hair Scalp Serum. I love the idea of supporting my hair to be its strongest and thickest, and the serum is easy to use, non-greasy, and fits right into my routine. OneSkin's all-woman team of scientists created the OS1 peptide. It's clinically proven to target aging at the cellular level. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. So by focusing on those cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. And for a limited time, you can try OneSkin with 15% off using the code newsworthy at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with the code newsworthy. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and let them know we sent you. Now, back to the news. A new deal was reached to end a strike that canceled thousands of flights and stranded hundreds of thousands of passengers. Remember, Air Canada flight attendants went on strike last weekend. But yesterday, their union announced the agreement that will guarantee flight attendants get paid for work that's done while planes are on the ground. That resolves one of the major issues that drove the strike. And with that, the flight attendants are expected to get back to work. The union members still need to vote on the agreement to make it permanent. And if they vote it down, the strike could start up again. Either way, Air Canada is expected to be impacted for a while. The carrier says it's likely to take 7 to 10 days to restart regular service, even if the agreement is ratified. The plan is to start ramping up North American routes this morning. Labubu is on track to become a billion-dollar business. In case you're not familiar, Labubus are collectible plush toy dolls made by Chinese parent company Pop Mart. They've gone viral all over the world, with celebrities like Paris Hilton, David Beckham, and Kim Kardashian all being seen with them. And this week, parent company Pop Mart reported sales have even surpassed Hot Wheels and Barbie dolls. The company's profit has gone up by nearly 400%, and its stock is up 200% since the start of the year. Most of the Labubus retail for less than $30, but one problem is they're now nearly impossible to get, and some rare variants are going for thousands of dollars on online marketplaces. Some retailers have also created their own knockoff versions of the dolls, some of which aren't safe. Federal regulators put out an urgent safety warning this week about the phony Labubus that have been dubbed Lafufus. Some of them are so poorly made that they can break into small pieces that young kids can get into their mouths, so then they pose a serious choking risk. The federal government is now warning everyone not to buy the fakes, and if they already have them, to stop using them right away. The biggest owner of American TV stations is trying to get even bigger. Nexstar announced a deal to acquire another media heavyweight, Tegna. The deal would be worth $6.2 billion. Public interest groups are against it, saying these kinds of mega mergers kill competition and ultimately lower the amount of local news coverage that viewers depend on. But Nexstar's CEO says it will just level the playing field, helping stations compete better with big tech. And investors seem to be on board. Shares in both companies rallied on the news yesterday. Either way, it might not end here. The Wall Street Journal says another rival, Sinclair, has also proposed a merger with Tegna. Either deal would require government approval. But industry analysts say the FCC is expected to loosen its rules soon, allowing it to happen. Speaking of TV stations, cable news station MSNBC announced it's changing its name and its logo. Later this year, the network will become My Source News Opinion World, or MS Now for short. Plus, the logo will no longer have NBC's peacock symbol. NBC Universal ordered the changes when it spun off cable networks into their own company. They include not only MSNBC, but also CNBC, USA, the Golf Channel, and more. MSNBC is the only one changing its name, though. It's believed to be NBC's way of stressing the difference between its main news station that's meant to be objective and the one that doesn't hide its liberal slant. Now, many of MSNBC's popular personalities, like Rachel Maddow, say they're excited about this change and the independence that comes with it. Streamers have hit another milestone in the U.S. Nielsen's latest numbers show last month was the 6th month in a row that streaming has taken a record high share of TV viewing. Netflix, YouTube, and the Roku channel have all hit new highs, with Netflix's Squid Game ranking as the most watched show. But all those gains have come largely at the expense of cable, which saw double-digit declines in both news and sports coverage. That said, the old-fashioned networks are sure to see a big bounce back when original shows and football games return this fall. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, I want to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, CookUnity. There are plenty of quick meal options out there, but very few that actually feel special. That's what makes CookUnity different. I've had dishes like quinoa-crusted salmon, a Moroccan chickpea and feta bowl, and a Mediterranean grilled shrimp grain bowl. And each one has tasted like something I'd order from a restaurant, only it was ready at home in minutes. The secret is who's behind them. CookUnity partners with award-winning chefs, including Food Network alums and James Beard winners, to create small batch meals with hand-picked ingredients. And these are fresh, not frozen. I also love how easy the whole experience is. No grocery shopping, no cooking, no cleanup. Just heat in about 5 minutes in the oven or microwave, and you're enjoying a chef-crafted dish that balances flavor and nutrition. For me, it's a great way to take care of myself during busy work days, knowing I can count on something delicious and healthy. Fuel your day with the freshest, best-tasting meal delivery made by award-winning chefs. Go to cookunity.com/newsworthyfree or enter code newsworthyfree before checkout for free premium meals for life. That's free premium meals for life by using code newsworthyfree or going to cookunity.com/newsworthyfree. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. Forget job hopping. The newest career trend is job hugging. Reports show employees are not moving quickly between new job opportunities anymore and are instead choosing to stick it out in the jobs they have now. It's a big turnaround from just a few years ago when we were talking about the Great Resignation. Remember, that's when employees were often moving from company to company, especially younger workers looking to climb the corporate ladder. Back in 2021, more than 47 million Americans quit their jobs. But so far this year, as of this summer, federal data shows about 19 million Americans have quit their jobs. And it's not just the quitting rate. The hiring rate is way down too. So what's behind this change? Well, one consulting firm says workers are wary about an unpredictable economy, and so are many employers, meaning fewer new jobs are opening up. Experts say this can be risky for workers who can usually make more money and learn new skills by changing jobs. But on the bright side, this could be an opportunity for companies to invest more in their top talent and encourage younger employees to put down roots. Thank you so much for listening today and for sharing the show. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest news to know. Until then, have a great day.